Today, we're going to look at how a team managed to build a truly cutting-edge generative AI agent inside one of America's oldest, most careful companies. It's a fantastic story about making small bets that lead to a massive impact. So let's just jump right into the big question, the central problem here. Imagine you have this incredible, game-changing AI idea, but you work at a 16-year-old financial company. You know, the kind whose entire business is built on stability and promises that last for decades. How on earth do you get a project like that off the ground? Okay, let's set the stage. The company we're talking about is Northwestern Mutual, a giant in financial services. And the idea? A project they called GenBI, which is basically a mix of generative AI and business intelligence. So what is GenBI really? Well, it's an AI agent, and its whole purpose is to let anyone in the company, not just the data nerds, ask regular business questions and get answers straight from the company's data. The big goal here is to democratize data, so a marketing manager or a sales lead can get the insights they need right away without having to get in a long line for the specialized analytics team. In this right here, this is the core conflict. It's a perfect illustration. On one side, you've got Gen Z. It's all about radical innovation, instant answers, data for everyone. And on the other side, you have Northwestern Mutual, a company whose unofficial motto is pretty much don't mess things up because, well, their clients are depending on them to be stable for generations. So, how do you bridge a gap that wide? The team behind GenBI was staring down 4 huge challenges before they could write even a single line of code. And these weren't just tech problems. These were fundamental organizational roadblocks. First off, nobody had ever done this before. There was no playbook, no blueprint to follow. Second, the team made a crucial decision. They were going to use actual, messy, real-world company data from the very beginning. No clean, perfect sample data. They knew the real test was tackling that complexity head-on. Third, you've got the trust barrier. They had to convince everyone, from the end users to senior leadership, that an AI could actually give them answers they could rely on. And finally, the budget wall. I mean, how do you ask a company that hates risk for a big pile of money for what sounds like a pie-in-the-sky idea? So their solution to all of this was just brilliant. It was a strategic shift away from the typical moonshot project. Instead, they adopted a strategy of making small bets. The key insight was to completely reframe the problem. Instead of trying to make one giant, risky leap across a chasm, they decided they would build a bridge, piece by piece. They broke the entire project down into these small, safe steps that gave leadership total visibility and, maybe more importantly, total control at every single stage. So let's look at the actual roadmap and see how this worked. It was split into 6 different phases, and each one was just 6 weeks long and had a real, tangible thing to show at the end. Phase 1 was just basic research. But phase 2, where they defined what good metadata even looks like for an AI, that immediately created value for a totally separate company project. Phase 3 could be packaged up as its own little data finder tool. You see, each step delivered real business value, and it did it early and often. Now, what's so powerful about this is the freedom it gave leadership. This whole phased approach meant they were never locked in. They could have stopped the project after any of those 6-week sprints. This completely gets rid of that sunk cost feeling, and it made them comfortable continuing to fund what was, let's be honest, a very high-risk research project.
Okay, so the strategy worked. The project got the green light. But how does this thing actually work? Let's look under the hood. It's built on a really clever 4-agent system.
It all kicks off when a user asks a question, something like, how were our sales in the Midwest last quarter? An orchestrator gets that question and starts the whole process. First up is the metadata agent. Think of it like a librarian. It figures out what data tables and definitions are even relevant to the question. Next, the RAG agent, that stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. It acts like a search engine. It tries to find an existing certified report that might already have the answer. This is huge for building trust. Only if it can't find an existing answer does the SQL agent jump in to write a brand new query from scratch. And finally, the BI, or Business Intelligence Agent, acts as the translator. It takes all that raw data and turns it into a clear, easy-to-understand answer for a human. So, this all sounds great in theory, but did it actually work? Let's take a look at the real-world results because they were pretty staggering. Remember that RAG agent, the one that just finds existing reports? Well, it turns out that a specialized BI team was spending 20% of their time, their total time, just doing that one thing, finding the right report and sending it to the right person. The GenBI agent automated 80% of that specific task.
Now, to put that into perspective, for the 10-person team they were working with, that automation freed up the equivalent capacity of 2 full-time jobs. That is a massive, immediate impact from just one part of the whole system. But there was this other, really powerful side effect. By running tests, the team could show, with hard numbers, how much better the AI performed when it had well-documented, enriched metadata to work with. This gave leadership concrete proof that investing in their bigger, company-wide data documentation and semantic layer projects would have a measurable return.
So, let's wrap this up with the key takeaways from this whole thing. First, if you have a big, innovative idea, de-risk it by breaking it into small, incremental bets. Second, build a phased roadmap where you're delivering something tangible every few weeks. Third, get your end users involved from day one. They will become your biggest advocates. Fourth, design your systems to be modular so each piece can provide value all on its own. And finally, use your project to prove the value of other important initiatives happening in the company. And all of this leaves us with one last, pretty provocative question for the future. We've always priced software per seat, per employee, but if GenAI can make a single employee 10 times more effective, does that model even make sense anymore? Or, as we're seeing some companies like Salesforce experiment with, should the price of software be based not on how many people use it, but on the incredible value it creates? That's a question the entire tech industry is about to face. Thanks for joining.